Hey everybody, it's Tommy Canale and welcome back to Before the Lights podcast, the show that tells you how they made their mark. He's a family man that is a classically trained chef, a James Beard semifinalist, and Michelin recommended. He's the owner of Poppy and Rose, as well as Poppy and Seed. He has spent almost 20 years as a chef across New York and Los Angeles. His work has been on Access Hollywood, The Dish, and several others. Recently, he competed in Guy Fieri's Tournament of Champions 5. Let's welcome in Chef Michael Green. Chef, welcome to the show.
Hi, thank you for having me.
You are welcome. Born and raised in Oxnard, California, in a family of foodies. Parents made everything from homemade pies, fish, barbecue, but as somebody that also grew up in the Midwest, explain to my listeners, there is no substitute for fresh ingredients from a garden.
There's nothing like it. If you can go out, especially at Seed, we have a garden that we pick all our fresh herbs from for garnishing our dishes. It just is, you get to grow things that you can't get your hands on, even when you go to the farmer's market. It's just something really special to be able to play in the soil and actually connect with the earth and really know where your stuff is coming from.
As a chef, and for people out there that are foodies as I am, and obviously you are, what is the fundamentals of flavors?
For me, it's always trying to find that balance between salty, sweet, acidic, sour, so that your palate doesn't get fatigued from eating the same redundant flavor over and over again. So a lot of our dishes that we design at Seed are designed with a lot of fresh herbs that give you different profiles that hit your palate in different ways so that you're curious to go back and eat it again and again and keep you interested through a dish.
How important then is having good kitchen utensils or tools?
The right tool makes you so much more efficient if you have everything laid out accordingly. Like the number one rule they teach you in culinary school is have your mise en place. That starts with your knives, your spoons for tasting, the right saute pan, the right mandolin, and knowing how to use them efficiently and properly will save you so much time, whether in a commercial setting or even at the house.
So if you're a home chef and you need a good knife, can you start out with, I have several, but can you start out with just one good knife if you got a good one?
I personally, as a chef, like when I first started, they give you the whole kit. Like, here's a boning knife, here's a fillet knife, here's a bread knife. They give you like 7 different knives. Here's a tourné knife. They give you all these knives and they're cool. It's nice to open up your roll and look at all the shiny new knives that you just got. And I used them all when I was early in my career. Now that I'm 20 years into this, basically, I have one knife that is my workhorse that I do everything with. My friends that own a Japanese knife store look at me like I'm crazy because I buy really big knives. And they're like, what are you doing with it? I will cut bread. I will cut herbs. I will butcher with it. So having one really good stable knife and learning how to hold it properly and use it is more important than saying I have 20 of them to do one little thing. Like I have a paring knife to do little cuts. I have a bread knife. If you have one sharp knife in your kitchen and you keep it and you know what you're doing with it, you can do everything you want.
Let's get into your background. Before you went to the Culinary Institute of America in New York, where you graduated in 2008, you attended the University of Santa Barbara. What did you go there to study first?
I transferred in from Oxnard City College and I already had an AA in business. So I was thinking, I'm going to do like stock market, play with other people's money and get rich quick. What's the plan? I was also on the cross country and track and field team. So it was a dual purpose. Like I'm really doing well in running, was like looking to do everything right. So I was like Olympic dreams. And so I literally got there my junior year, broke my foot, removed the bone chip, and literally going, oh, wait, these classes that I'm taking are not as fun as I thought they were. So I quickly abandoned that dream. And I was like, I'm having too much fun in Santa Barbara. Like, as everyone knows, Santa Barbara is by the beach. It is very chill, perfect weather year round, almost. Like our idea of cold weather is putting on sandals, shorts, and a hoodie for wintertime and thinking that we're cold. So I was not ready to, one, go back to Oxnard where there wasn't really much going on as far as the food scene. The Santa Barbara City College had a culinary program that was legit. We had professors that went to the CIA that were teaching there. And so I was like, let me just go for a year, because back then the CIA actually had a requirement where you had to have work experience before you got in. So I was going through that process of taking those classes just to make sure I was interested in it and I wanted to do this, while working at a country club and a vegan vegetarian restaurant up in Santa Barbara and just living the good life, you know?
Is accounting and bookkeeping taught in culinary school? And if not, should it be?
It's the CI does have like a brief overview of like cost controlling and things like that. I don't think they do a good enough job in the restaurant industry of, especially going to culinary school, to say that you need to be able to work numbers or Excel, to build your own spreadsheets, to know how to read a P&L properly and sit at a table with, whether it's your upper management, if you're working in hotels, or speaking to an owner and explaining why your food cost is so low and why you deserve a raise, or going to bat to buying new equipment. They don't do a good enough job, in my opinion, to actually get you the tools to understand how to run a business properly. Like, it's a sad number to see that in the first year that a huge 90% of us fail, which is kind of shocking. You know, like, you could be the most talented chef out there and have great ability to cook, but if you cannot control your costs, you will not be open to the public for that long.
And that's why I asked the question, because of the high failure rate of restaurants. And I was guessing that most people that are in the Culinary Institute want to own their own restaurant. So I was thinking, do they teach it? And if not, they probably should.
Yeah, they really don't. They give you like a brief overview of it. But to me, having a business background, I'm also married to a controller / accountant.
That helps.
We fell in love at a hotel where we worked closely together, and we taught each other different aspects of accounting, because, food accounting is not your normal accounting of just move these numbers here and there. There's a lot of different finesses and categories, and the way you have to look at it to actually truly understand the cost of your goods. So we worked really hard to control our costs, to make sure that, the downtown restaurant has the right labor cost, the right food cost, that the rent is in the right margins, and that we're actually taking home a paycheck and not just being like, oh, we do this because we love it, which we do, but we actually can make money from it.
Back in LA, you worked at David Meyer's Michelin star rated Sona on the recommendation from Nancy Silverton at age 26. Nancy is an icon in the food world. How did your paths cross?
So as you know, our industry is super small. Everyone knows everyone. So there's a guy that I went to school with at Santa Barbara City College. After he graduated from there, he started working with Nancy Silverton, right out of culinary school. And so I went to New York, did my 2 years out in New York, promptly moved back to LA, and was kind of landed at Sona, and was there for like a full year. Got to see a full season, which was awesome. Got to play with some really fun ingredients and really saw the creativity of what you could be as a chef. We old school brigade kitchen, and we had 9 or 10 of us in there, and I moved up the ranks pretty quickly, kept my head down, learned as much as I could, knew how to butcher already. And so I started as entremet, worked my way all the way up to the meat guy. And we kind of started losing line cooks, and I was taking over more responsibility, walking and talking like a sous chef. And so I asked, I was like, hey, can I be your sous chef? And he said, you're not ready. And I go, that's fine. You have the Michelin star. I'm just here to work. But if I'm doing your ordering, your inventory, controlling your food costs, running 3 stations, I feel like I'm due for something, right?
Right. Yeah.
Right. I feel like I'm like, you could junior sous chef, lead line cook, a title, give me something. Because when you're that young, you're chasing titles. And I asked, he said no. I was like, fine. And then my friend that was at Moza called me and said, hey, we're going to Singapore. We're going to go open up her restaurant in Singapore. So they were taking him and like 5 other chefs out to Singapore. I was like, he's like, do you want to take my position as a sous chef? I was like, that's the title, Michelin star for Michelin star. And Nancy to me has the bigger name and clout. So I was like, I'm on board. Cool. Gave notice, went over there and started working with Nancy. Took her 8 months to basically ship out because it was brand new construction. 8 months waiting for them to actually ship out. Got sat down and was like, all right, they're shipping out. You ready to be the sous chef? And I was like, yep, I'm ready to be the sous chef. And then I figured out how much she pays. And I was like, I have two jobs, unfortunately, and this is what I make between the 2 jobs. Is there any way that we can meet in the middle? Because I already assumed and I saw the passion and how many hours the sous chefs were working at Moza. And I was like, I can't hold another job to make up the difference. So what can we do? And unfortunately, it didn't work out. So I gave notice, wasn't on a rush, stayed there for like another 3 months until they found someone that could replace me. And then, just hung around and stayed in her inner circle and did like LA Food and Wine magazine with her a couple of times, went up north to Napa and did some other food charity events with her. And she just called me and was just like, hey, I have a friend that's up the street, has a restaurant, and she's looking for an executive chef. Remind you, I was only a line cook so far. Never been a sous chef, never been an executive chef. And she's recommending me to go be an executive chef at 26.
Unbelievable.
It's crazy.
Throw yourself right into the deep end.
So at 26, I did the interview. She liked me, got the job offer, was paying what I needed to make to be able to afford to live in LA. And, 26 was way too young to be an executive chef. I really kind of wish I could go back and be someone's sous chef for a longer period of time and been groomed a little bit more. Even though I have great success now, and trial by fire is what I grew up on, basically.
As you were telling me that story and as you move up the ranks and people leave, something came to my mind, and I'm sure this is probably prevalent in your industry. How big is burnout?
Huge.
Yeah.
Like me and my sous chef here at Seed are about the same age. And we talk about how we grew up in kitchens and how rough they were or what the old school mentality and standards were in a kitchen and some abuse that you were able to take back then. And so, I think people that I graduated, I only know of 4 people that are still cooking out of 100 people in my class from the CIA that actually are still in this industry. I was one of those old school chefs. So the younger chef that I used to be was exactly like who I grew up with, which was a hard ass, yelling, degrading. And I figured out at a very young age after being that executive chef, you can be talented, but you have to figure out a way to motivate your staff and not burn them out. There has to be a work-life balance between what you're putting in and what you're getting out of it to make it worth your time, regardless of how passionate you are about the industry, that you have to coach people in different ways. Not everyone reacts well to yelling. Some people need a quiet touch. Some people do need a louder touch. So you have to find that balance to not burn people out. So what we have done for our kitchens is we don't yell, we don't scream. We schedule within an appropriate amount of time to get projects done. We are ahead of schedule. We give you 4 days on, 3 days off. So when we're busy, you get 5 days on, 2 days off. They're all consecutive, so you don't have broken schedules, so you can actually plan your days out. We like to cross-train everybody, especially at Seed, where we are bridging that gap between a server taking home $600 a day and having them be front of the house kitchen servers, because I was having trouble here at this restaurant finding servers that were passionate about food. So now our kitchen servers are actually chefs that will come in, prep for 3 hours, turn around, change out into proper chef coats, bougie aprons, and they'll be the servers. They have the passion, they have the knowledge about all the food, allergies, things like that. And their paychecks reflect the value they add to the business, and the guests really appreciate having a chef go out to the floor. So there's not this huge gap anymore between what a kitchen server and a server walk away with. And we take it and put it to the whole house tip pool. So it's a much more even kill workplace now that we've developed for our companies, where it's like, yeah, you come in and you work hard in the kitchen, you do all your prep, but you see the satisfaction from the guests as you serve them. Because in a kitchen, you never get to see that. You hear a server, oh, table 10, love the steak. But you don't get to see it. You don't get to hear it firsthand. So now our staff actually gets to see it and get the benefits of the tip up front, which is pretty amazing.
It's a great concept. I love that. As you were telling me that, I remember a restaurant owner told me one time, if you ever see the back of the house, you realize why all chefs drink after they get done.
Yeah, it's high pressure, and it's like one of those weird things that I've seen them learn, that it is not as easy as they make it to be a server. They have a higher appreciation of like, oh, well, the kitchen got slammed and now they're backed up, but I still have to go talk to this table. Yeah, you got to deal with those awkward moments now. And now you understand both sides of the coin of why it's not as easy of what's going on a flawless service of how it actually runs. You're like, yeah, there's hiccups. And you can say you did I put the ticket in. Did you? Did you know? Like there's a better commonality of understanding between, like, there's not that big rift between front of the house and back of the house. I mean, like, well, I can do your job and I can do, you guys need each other. So how about we just work together to have a flawless, great service and give the best guest experience we can.
Chef, how does your food represent who you are?
I think, being in California, we're blessed with some of the best produce that you can get in the United States. We have local ranches up north that are small and provide really good meat. Seafood, we're right off the coast. So it's like we have the abundance of everything you want. Plus, in California, we are a blend of almost every culture out there. And so as a chef, for me, I get to pick and choose the best ingredients for the season. I get to choose different cooking methods between, do I want to lacto ferment something to give me a different flavor? Do I want to do it classic, or do I want to pull more Asian inspired ingredients into it and get the umamis going? So it's like I literally get to pick and choose how and when, and sneak things in and use some of the Southern touches that I picked up over the time to be like, yeah, we do a lot of smoked and cured meats here at Seed that take time, but it gives you that wonderful flavor that you're looking to develop over time that you can only do if you're going to smoke the meat, So it's like we really get to pull and play with food.
Before I get into your two concepts there, your grandfather grew up in Memphis. He owned apartment complexes and he ran his own business. From that, you made a commitment at age 21 to own your own restaurant by 30. What was it about your grandfather that just inspires you to go, I'm going to do this?
Honestly, it was one of those things because as a kid, we would go back to Memphis. We would wake up before the sun, go mow lawns, change doors, just replace things. And he was his own man. He was a pillar in his community that, my dad integrated the first all-white high school at Whitehaven Lane because he built a house in an all-white neighborhood. Like, he was just one of those people that was a God-fearing man, a pillar of the community, and he was there to change people's lives. So yes, his apartments were affordable income for his people. And he did all the work, and he had 30 some odd employees that he would take care of. And so growing up in something around that, you just get to see how you can impact people's lives and be in control of your own destiny at the same time, and seeing what he built up between all his properties. And it was just, he would always say, you have to be an entrepreneur if you want freedom. And I was like, okay, I want freedom. I want to be in control of what I want to do. So it was just kind of one of those things that was instilled it's instilled into me as a little kid that if you want to do what you want to do, you have to do it for yourself. My dad was an entrepreneur, does real estate. And so he would set his own schedule. He would be at all the soccer games. He was my soccer coach. He'd be at tennis practice. He could do what he wanted to do and be in control of his own schedule instead of being like, I'm stuck working 9 to 5. So he was always around. So for me, I was like, yeah, whenever I get married and have kids, I want to be able to do those things. So it was just one of those things. I don't know why it was by 30, I'm going to own my own restaurant. I think it was just one of those random goals you kind of throw out there in the universe. Yep. And then you're like, oh, wait, I did all these things. And now at 30, we're opening the first restaurant, Poppy and Rose. And you're just like, oh, I did that. I don't know why I did that or how I did that, but I did that.
Speaking of Poppy and Rose, it opened in 2014 in downtown LA in the Flower District that has a seasonal menu. How far in advance are you looking? I mean, I know we're spring. I'm sure you're already working on summer menus right now.
Yeah. So for Poppy and Seed in Anaheim, we're basically hyper seasonal. We don't plan that far in advance because it's literally, we're a month ahead of where we want to be. We're kind of planting the garden according to what should be going in the ground and what's going to be coming out as far as what's going to be coming. We're constantly looking at what's happening in the Santa Monica's Farmers Market and at Chino Farms and seeing what they're growing. And then it's really down to me, like, I'm tired of making this dish. I've made this dish probably 1,000 times, and I'm going to have to roll this pasta shape one more time. I'm just like, I'm over you. I'm like, you've had your fun. You've ran a good season. You gotta go. I got to come up with something else. So then we'll start R&D and research and figuring out what is the next shape that we want to do. I haven't made this before. Let's play with this shape. What's the filling going to be? What are all the textures going to be? Is there a crunchy element? What's the sauce going to be? And we'll start R&Ding that and being like, okay, retired, done.
I'm guessing here, my listeners can't see this, but Chef Michael is sitting here, which I think is the greenhouse setting. Are you at Poppy and Seed right now?
I am at Poppy and Seed right now. Like, honestly, it's like weird. We're supposed to be getting rain shortly, but it's still huge glass box, all the doors open. It is like the perfect hybrid California restaurant with a huge outdoor patio. I think flat seating, we have 118 seats, but it's like you could be inside and be outside at the same time. And you're like, it's perfect. Perfect.
It's beautiful. I just put it on my bucket list. Do you have any more concepts for Poppy and Seed? Do you have another one coming?
So not another Poppy and Seed. I think Poppy and Seed is a really chef-driven restaurant that deserves to be its own entity and not a copy of or duplicate itself somewhere else. Compared to Poppy and Rose, which is much more classically, their menu stays a little bit more stagnant. That one could pop up at any location and do really well. It travels well. It's brunch. It's very approachable. And brunch is a thing now that, I make just as much money at a brunch restaurant than I do running a dinner restaurant. And we just do it right. So Poppy and Rose has another concept that will be opening 2025. And it's going to be a hybrid where they actually do breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And that's going to be opening in San Pedro in the marina. And that one's going to be fun. It's going to be super approachable, outdoor, indoor seating, large full liquor bar, show kitchen. And then it has a private dining room, a 2,000 square foot garden out in front. And we'll be doing chef tasting menus that are a little bit more high end out there in the garden and in the private dining room every night. It's like the first restaurant that I've actually built from this ground up. So it's like my dream kitchen, which is kind of exciting because every other space is always, we've inherited the build out in the kitchen layout and made our changes to it. So this is the first time that we're building something from the ground up, which is going to be pretty exciting.
It's exciting to me. I'm hearing it going, sign me up. I'm going to keep my eye out for that one to open up in 2025. Just a reminder, this podcast is listener supported, which means you as the listener help support this podcast. You can do that in several different ways. One, join the Before the Lights members group. You can make a donation, simply a PayPal donation, or you can buy me a glass of vino. Links are in the show notes, or go to beforethelightspod.com/support. That's beforethelightspod.com/support. And as always, thank you. Chef, how much does social media influence your creativity level?
Honestly, so like for me, there's a couple ways that you can see where I've been or where I'm following. So like a lot of like me and my wife will take trips and we'll go to different locations, and part of that is to decompress from the restaurant industry, but it's also like we went to Korea for 10 days and just ate through Korea. We went to Mexico City. So every time I go on a trip, I come back inspired with different ingredients and cooking techniques. So I'll pull from my vacation, Instagram and socials, things like that. You get to see what people are doing around the world, depending on who you're following, by just scrolling. And you get inspired now. And you're like, dude, that is beautiful. They're doing this in Switzerland. This is something that's trending over there. Is it something that could be trending over here shortly? So it's like social media is a huge part of, just keeping your eyes open. I wish I could travel a little bit more and eat more of the food you see on Instagram, but it's one of those things. Like social media is a huge part of how you can kind of see what people are doing in our industry that are really pushing the envelope.
In 2011, you did upscale catering company, Root of All Food. Your clients include the likes of Gwen Stefani, Sugar Ray Leonard. It's done with your wife and your business partner that you spoke about. You met at a hotel. So is this her project and you're in on it? Or are you guys in together? Tell me about this Root of All Food.
So Root of All Food was technically something I started 12 years ago or almost 13 years ago. Because after leaving my executive chef job at 26 and facing burnout, was my options were go work for someone else, or you have enough clients that I was already catering for at that time, and really just give it a go. And so I gave myself, I think I said, I'll give it a go. I have enough money in my bank account to survive 2 months.
Okay.
2 months, and so I was like, see what you can do in 2 months and see if you can get enough events and survive. And so I had a couple of events lined up. Like the last event I did before I left the executive chef position was a 250 person party for a client in Santa Monica that was always throwing lavish parties. And it was like the who's of who was coming in. Moby, Adrian Grenier. It was just star-studded, fun events. And so I was there and basically was like, all right, did that event. And from that event, basically launched Root of All Food and started getting calls every week and being like, hey, I have a party. It's a birthday. It's a wedding. It's a bar mitzvah. We're trying to sell $1 million penthouses at the new W residency in Hollywood. Can you throw a party in this penthouse for us? So I basically brokered all these deals where I had consistent income. And I was like, okay, I don't have to go get another job. I can survive by doing this. And that's how Root of All Food started. And it just ran it for and out of a garage for a very long time. Until we outgrew the space and I was like, okay, I have to get a commercial kitchen. And that's how Poppy and Rose was kind of created, because I was like, okay, got to get a commercial kitchen. If you open a catering kitchen, you have to, it's zoned differently. There's different loopholes that you had to get to do a commercial catering kitchen. I didn't really understand them at that time and didn't have the time to understand them. So we're like, just get a restaurant and open a restaurant. And so LA restaurants at that time were still not cheap. They're not cheap now, but we found this little gym that you're close to Skid Row, but during the daylight hours, it's a huge block of just cut flowers. It's hustling and bustling. And there's this little restaurant that was painted all these funky colors, and it had the hood, it had the right space. And I was just like, okay, cool. We can take this space, put some paint on it so it's actually cohesive, get rid of all the funky colors, open a restaurant. It's their hours of operation for the flower market were like 2 a.m. to 12. So you're like, well, if you got thousands of people flowing through this space, you have to open for brunch. Okay, there's your hours. So we'll open at 6 a.m. We'll close at 3. That takes care of the brunch category. After 3 o'clock, we'll start doing production for the catering event, walk out the door, do the events at night. So catering company moved in. We built the restaurant to be what it is now, slapped some paint on it, redid the drop ceiling, did some tiling, some cabinet work, redid tables really quick, doing this all by myself on a shoestring. It'll be like, oh, we have to write a check for this. Oh, go do a catering event to pay for that. And then you can write the check. Okay, cool. So it took us about 3 months to build it out. And we literally, like every event I did, I was like, okay, now we can pay for the new ovens. We can pay for the guy to install the hood that's actually not a Denny's hood that was super low. And we can put a smoker underneath it. Okay, what's next? What's next? And then finally we opened July 1st. And it was just like, okay, cool. Like, this is how naive we were when we opened the restaurant. You say we're brunch. We didn't even open on Sunday for brunch when we first started. We were like this, well, the flower market's not open. We're not going to be open either. The flower market's closed on Sunday, so we're not opening. We ran that way for probably all of 3 or 4 months. And every day I would do a catering event on Saturday night, come back, start cleaning up on Sunday to get ready for Monday. Knock, knock, knock. Are you guys open? No, we're closed today. Sorry. 20 people would show up. We're like, okay, fine. This is enough. We'll open on Sundays. Fine. And we finally opened on Sundays. It was crazy. Like, we didn't design the restaurant to do what it's doing now and be like such an iconic, old school, make it 10-year style restaurant in downtown next to Skid Row. Is just like happened naturally. So it's kind of great.
That's a great story. That's a really good story, how this whole thing evolved. When I was doing some research, Chef, I come across something where you have a feeling that you'd like to do away with tipping. And my eyes popped open because I'm like, wow, you're in an industry where people live and thrive off tips. So tell me about this thought process.
I honestly, if you know anything about tipping, it is an archaic, racist system that's still in place in the United States. It allows you to discriminate just on the way people look. It's not about, did they actually give me good service or not, depending on where you're located in the United States. And to me, I would rather say, yeah, we can do away with tipping, put the menu pricing as the menu pricing like they do in Europe, and say that everyone's getting paid fair wages, has health insurance, and can survive off of what we're actually paying them, versus being like, yeah, we pay you minimum wage and then you have to make it up in tips. But it's a hard battle. You know, it's a big battle that we all would have to kind of get over in the United States, that the menu pricing is the menu pricing. And the reason why a steak is now, instead of $40, it's $60 is because that's what we have to pay our staff to be able to live. It's not that the steak costs $60. You know, they still associate the menu pricing to the size of the steak, the quality of the steak, but they don't look at it, hey, we have to pay the staff. You know, so it's a weird, wonky system that should be done away with. Europe has done away with it. A lot of Asian cultures have done away with it. And it's just an old school system that is racist, bottom line. But, you know, servers kind of revolt against it. The guests revolt against it. You know, there are larger people at B that have tried to do away with it and do a tipping service or a service charge, and that never works out well. It seems like they always end up going class action lawsuit. They're taking our money. The guests don't like it because they don't understand where the money goes or where they think they're getting the money used for. It's a huge, they just need more transparency, in my opinion, if they're going to put a service charge, and make it clear as day. because people, the restaurant does, if you're paying for their health insurance, the restaurant's going to keep some of the service charge to pay for the health insurance. You want paid sick days off and things like that. It's got to come out of somebody's pocket, but it's like the government has left it solely on the restaurants industry to figure that out. Like, you have to take care of it. Like, when they are like, hey, you have to check all the vaccines. You go to a mall and walk into a mall, but there's not a security guard outside saying, let me see your vaccination card. But if you want to eat it in my restaurant, I have to be the vaccination police. Like, that's not really fair. Well, we just have to be very transparent as we move into how we take care of it.
Let's transition into your experience with Tournament of Champions, where you took on defending champion Michelin. The competition has the biggest names in culinary. First off, how did you get casted to get into this Tournament of Champions?
Honestly, dumb luck, I think. I did well on Alex versus America. The casting people that did Alex versus America also, some of them are on Tournament of Champions. They also do like Guys Grocery Games and his other shows. And so when I did the first show, they're like, hey, do you guys want to go on, Guys Grocery Games, the other competition shows that he was doing? And I was like, no, that's not my scene. Like, it's not like, I don't want to be running around a grocery store. It's not what I'm shooting for right now, And so they're like, what show would you go on? I was like, I'll go on Tournament of Champions. And so they're like, okay, but like, in order to get on Tournament Champions, you got to go on these other shows. And I'm just like, one, I don't have time. I'm running 2 restaurants and the catering company. I just can't disappear, all the time. So I was just like, not right now, not right now. And luckily enough, I think this was the first season that Guy decided to do wild card seats. And so they're like, you're not on the show yet, but you have an opportunity to go against 16 other chefs, similar style competition. And if you win, you get to do the play-in round. And I was like, okay, it's fair enough.
Yeah,
I'll do that. I can do that. And so we went in before the actual tournament started, and they had 16 talented chefs. Some people had already been on TOC once. A lot of them had been on Guys' other games or other notable, like Gordon Ramsay's Next Level Chef, Top Chefs were there. You name it. It was still like, you think that the 32 were star-studded? The 16 that also walked in were just as star-studded in the competition round. And you're just like, okay, yeah, we all know each other. Okay, great. This is gonna be a rough battle. 16 people, 4 slots available. And so, we went in and we had to cook twice. First round was 4 of us in each group, and only 2 of us got to make it into the second round of cooking. And so me and Ray Garcia from Broken Spanish, and we got passed on to the next round. He won the first round. And I was a little mad. I was like, man, I put up a solid dish, and I thought I thought I had to win, but it's blind judging, so it's all fair. And so next round, still got the randomizer wheel, so it's just as stressful and as crazy as can be. And we went to the next round, and I edged Ray Garcia out by 1 freaking point to make it into the next round, which then put me in the bracket of the 32. And, being the number 8 seed in your bracket now means you have to go against the number 1 seed, which was Michelin. And you're just like, oh, great. I was kind of like, can I be in the other bracket for our coast? And then I get to go against Brooke, even though it's not going to be easier to go against Brooke, because all the TOC champs, Brooke, Michelin, the Spice Queen, the Tiffany, like, they all are beasts.
Yeah.
They have done this show for multiple seasons. They are veterans at it. They have proven themselves time in and time out that they know how to play the game. And you're just like, oh, this is going to be great. This is going to be great.
I have just a couple questions about TOC. When the randomizer ends and the clock starts, how fast is it? Can you get your mind wrapped around on what you're going to make while you're running to go get ingredients?
Oh, so the veterans of the show have figured out cheat codes.
Okay.
Cheat codes. So the longer you engage with Guy about the random stuff, the longer you have to actually stall him out before he sneaks in his 3, 2, 1 go. So if you can engage him with just having a conversation while thinking about how am I going to use these things, the more time you have to figure out what you're going to actually do. Because there's not a huge gap between the wheel stops spinning and now you're off to the races. It's literally like you have maybe 30 seconds to a full minute, if you're lucky, to be like, okay, here we go. Grab your stuff. Have fun.
After you make your dish, how long do you have to wait back in your trailer until the judging's completed?
It's actually not that bad. You know, it's kind of quick. Depending on who finished their dish first gets judged first. So if you finish first, you get judged first. And so if you go first, it's a short wait. If you go second, it all depends on how the judges are enjoying your dishes or ripping your dish apart will determine how long before your dish gets judged. But you know, it's not, it's like what they show you on TV is a compressed version of all the things you get to hear and say, and they're taking the sound bites. It's a lot longer. It's like 10 minutes of agonizing critiques or praises, depending on how well you did with the randomizer, to really enjoy that time. So it's 10 minutes of judging and eating and watching them and being like, do they like it? Do they hate it? What are they thinking? So it's a lot of time when you're just like, oh, please describe it. No, I did this. So it's a lot. It's a lot of pressure to actually, like, it's one thing when you send food to a table and you're like, cool. And are they enjoying it? Yeah. You're watching them eat it slowly and take it apart and analyze every component of it. And you're just like, wow. Okay. That hurt. Thank you. Thank you for that praise. It's a lot.
Would you do it again?
Oh, for sure. Honestly, like that is the best show that I have been on. I've been on 3 shows now. I have another show that sometime will be airing probably later this year, also with the Food Network. My beautiful wife is going to be on that with me for Chopped. So it's going to be overall the best overall experience that I've ever had on a show. They take care of you like royalty. You know, it's a lot of pressure. It's a lot of stress. You know, I think next year I'll have a lot more fun with it. I think the first year I was like, oh, you're the underdog and you're competing at a totally different level. Are you sure you belong here? Kind of like a lot of doubt. But you know, like I stand behind the dish I made. It was super creative. It was outside the box. I did what I thought I should have done. You know, like you have random thoughts and random dreams now about like the randomizer and like what you should have done. You're like, for the first week, I think I was like, should have just fried a pork cutlet. And I was like, no, it's okay. You didn't fry a pork cutlet. You went outside the box. You still pan fried a bunch of stuff and had fried elements. If the judges didn't understand it, that's their bad. But I did a bomb dish. You know, I think at some point I might, just to spite everyone, put that on my menu just because I can. And just be like, here you go.
Here's the dish that I
Eric Cavatelli that got me kicked off the show. You can taste it and let me know what you think.
That's a great idea, Chef. That's a great idea. Let's end on this. Tell me about one of your favorite foods and peaches and how you like to use them.
Peaches. Oh man. Honestly, I think for the summertime, I peaches, you know, I had a peach tree in my backyard growing up. My mom was an old school baker / loved confectionery. So I took her recipe last summer and started making my childhood ice cream, peach ice cream. And it's just like no other ice cream that I've ever, like, it just eats different. It tastes different. It reminds me of my childhood. And so we did basically brulee peaches with my mom's ice cream, honeycomb, And it was just like these perfect bites of crunchy, sweet, honey, peach. And it just went together so well to finish up the meal that we do here. And it was a hit. So I can't wait to bring that one back for the summertime. You know, we use it for a pork belly dish sometimes. We'll use it for our glazed peaches that we'll use, a peach jam that we glaze our baby back ribs that we smoke on the grill. Like, it's just, peaches to me are perfect. Summertime. It's like peaches, corn, summertime is on. Let's have fun. It's going to be a great meal.
I'm with you. That's my favorite season of the year. I don't care about how hot it is. I'm here in Vegas. I just love summer and sunshine and being outside with a drink in my hand or a glass of wine and good food. That's summer to me. Yeah,
it's where you should be. And, you know, we got it here. You got it there in Vegas. It's like, come visit me, please.
Yes.
Summertime. You want to get out of the blazing heat, come to our more mild heat, and I'll have a wonderful meal set up for you.
I'm definitely going to come down and see you and meet you in person. Before we go, where can listeners follow you at? Where do you on social media?
So you can follow me at Chef Michael Reed on Instagram, or you can follow any of our restaurants. So it's going to be Poppy and Rose, LA, or Poppy and Seed, OC.
Listeners, I will put links to those in the show notes. So if you didn't write them down, or if you're driving, I'll put links in the show notes. Please don't do it while you're driving. Wait till you stop, and then you can click on them and follow Chef Michael Green on social media. Chef, thanks so much for taking time out of your busy schedule and coming on the show, man. I really appreciate this.
I appreciate you guys spreading the good word. Thank you so much. Until next time.
Absolutely. Listeners, before we go, instead of a cup of coffee, which I don't drink, how about a glass of red wine that I love? And you can do that by going to the show notes. It's a small way to support the show. I will salute you on the next show for buying me a glass of wine. Once again, no coffee, just red wine. And that's going to do it for this episode of Before the Lights. I'm Tommy Canale. And until next time, everyone, a salute, a chin chin.